Under mounting international pressure, Venezuela's embattled president remains defiant. In a TV interview, Nicolas Maduro rejected an ultimatum by European countries to call elections.
No, international politics can't be based on ultimatums. That was the era of empires and colonies.
His response clears the way for EU nations, including Germany and France, to recognize his rival, Juan Guaido, as interim president. Over the weekend, many thousands across Venezuela followed Guaido's call to protest. Police backed off from one anti-government rally, a possible sign of solidarity from security forces. Venezuela is racked by economic crisis. Medicines, electricity, and even food are in short supply. The US has pledged to support Guaido by sending humanitarian aid. President Donald Trump even left open the possibility of providing military backing.
We're just all options, always. All options are on the table.
But Maduro retains powerful allies, Russia, China, and his country's military. With the crisis escalating, he appeared on state TV visiting an army base, an apparent attempt to project strength.
Now, as I mentioned, Germany is one of several European countries to recognize the opposition leader in Venezuela. German Chancellor Angela Merkel announced the move while on a visit to Japan.
New presidential elections were not called by yesterday. That is why Juan Guaido is the person we expect to initiate an election process as soon as possible. And Germany, along with several other European countries, recognizes him as the legitimate interim president to oversee this task.
So that was German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Joining me now from Brussels is our correspondent there, Barbara Wezel. So, Barbara, Germany is the latest European country to recognize Juan Guaido as interim president. What is the EU hoping to achieve with this move?
They're trying to increase the pressure on President Maduro, of course, to sort of give way. I mean, he has shown himself, as we have seen again, he has shown himself defiant and speaks of foreign interventions, and he would resist the pressure. But Europe, after watching the disastrous situation in Venezuela for weeks and months now, decided it had to get off the fence. And so now the acknowledgements for Juan Guaido, the opposition leader, are rolling in. The latest to come in by Twitter was, by the way, the Netherlands, the foreign minister of the Netherlands. So further countries will probably join the queue. What they want to achieve, of course, is to sort of foster a peaceful and democratic transition. They don't want sort of violent regime change. They don't want, of course, external intervention, but they want to help from the inside that the opposition could probably gain a stronger foothold. And their aim is, as everybody from President Macron to Angela Merkel, as we just heard reiterate, they want free, fair and internationally supervised elections.
But Barbara, as we've heard, that Nicolas Maduro has rejected any notion of a fresh election and says he will not succumb to outside pressure. How much influence does the EU have in Venezuela, and what is the EU's interest in the country?
It doesn't have any direct interest in the country in the way that Russia, for instance, through Rosneft, the Russian oil company, who is very strongly engaged in Venezuela, or the United States, which regard that area as sort of their backyard politically, have. So Europe is trying to sort of be a third party that might help to sort of bring sides together. There will be, during next Thursday, even in this week, there will be a foreign ministers meeting in Montevideo in Uruguay to talk to some Latin American neighbors of Venezuela and try to get them to intervene through diplomatic channels, get talks going, try to sort of foster peaceful steps forward. The worst they want to avoid is to be drawn into this proxy conflict between the United States on one side and Russia and also China on the other side. So they are sort of trying to sort of show we are a party, we want peaceful change in Venezuela, we're the good guys in this.
Right. Barbara Weisel in Brussels, thank you very much for sharing the European perspective on this crisis in Venezuela. Joining me now is journalist and Latin American analyst Manuel Silva Ferreira. Welcome to you. Now, Spain, France and Britain have all said that they recognize Juan Guaido as the interim president of Venezuela. What impact is this going to have, do you think?
It is really important because this is the impact of the recognition of the new interim government that could call new and free and transparent election in a few months, maybe. So this is really important for the opposition movement in Venezuela to have this support and this recognition of the international community.
But Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro also has very powerful allies, as we heard, Russia, China. And Russia has slammed this European move as kind of interference and meddling in a country's affairs.
Yes, but I'm not sure that the role of Russia in Latin America is so big like in Ukraine or in the Middle East. So I think this is a part of the international war of position, but the main issue in Venezuela, or the main actors doing in part of this political crisis, are Europe and the US, of course, and the Latin American countries. Yeah.
So what is the basis of Juan Guaido's legitimacy? Because Maduro says that, you know, what he's done is unconstitutional.
Guaido is the president of the Venezuelan parliament in the last free election that we took in Venezuela in 2015. And as a part of the not recognized election of Nicolas Maduro, so Guaido, as a president of the parliament, take the interim president of the country with the job to call for a new election. So this is part of the Venezuelan constitution. This is any surprise for anybody in the country.
Now, as we heard, President Donald Trump has not ruled out a military intervention in Venezuela. And we heard what Nicolas Maduro had to say to that, talking about his hands will be stained in blood and there'll be another Vietnam. How critical is the role of the army? The Venezuelan army?
This is the most important part of this political crisis, no? Because the army is the only support behind Nicolas Maduro. Now, Maduro has no people behind, any political, local and international support, and just the army are supporting Maduro right now.
So the generals have come out in support of Maduro. Is there a possibility or a likelihood that the soldiers could break ranks and join the opposition? That's
the whole international community are waiting for. So, and the people inside the country are pushing on, try to turn on this army for a call for a new election and a transition for a new free president in Venezuela, yes.
Right, Manuel Silva Ferreira, thank you very much for your assessment.